One thing I did want to ask about, just because it seems like there's a bit of a debate raging in the chat about kind of the approach of like burning in the Democrats versus working from outside of the two-party establishment. Are you of the mind that like the Democratic Party is worthy of salvaging to try to reform a lot of what we're talking about right now, or are you more of like a third-party person, got to work outside the system? Both the parties are corrupt enablers of the MIC. What's your vibe on that?
My favorite question, because you'll never make anyone happy. I think right now the left has almost zero power in politics. Legitimately almost none. I mean, we elected, more people to the squad, at least, that are somewhat left. But I think that we should take power where power can be taken. So if you're in a city like Chicago, right? That's or Indianapolis even, and it's hard blue, right? Like you're not going to win there as a third party. You can try. You're probably not going to work there. So let's say I'm a socialist, I'm a leftist. Your best bet is probably going to be to try and primary whoever is in office, right? For the Democratic spot. I mean, you have people like Lee Carter, who's a Democrat, who is an anti-war veteran and a fucking open socialist in a red county in Virginia.
Yeah, that guy's awesome.
And like absolutely incredible guy. And, he did that because he knew he was not going to win as an independent. So he ran as a Democrat and won, thankfully. But if you can do that to get power, sure, that's great, especially at state level races and stuff. But if you are in a district to where you could run as a third party, like in Indiana, we had an overwhelmingly high amount of third party voters compared to a lot of other states this last cycle, right? I think it was like a libertarian ran for governor and got almost like 15% of the vote. So there's obviously an interest there.
Yeah.
There's obviously a general distrust and hate of the two-party system. And so I think a place like Indiana would be a really good place to run as an independent or a third party, if that's something you wanted to do.
I feel the same way about Kansas. And Gavin, I don't know if you're about to sink into that. Go for it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's a great point, because like Indiana, I'm registered to vote in Kansas, and that's why I always do vote third party. It's like I know that the Democrats not going to win. I know that Joe Biden is going to win Kansas. So like, why would I co-sign that? Why would I put that?
But a guy like Bernie Sanders did win the primary in 2016.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. He won the primary.
He also won here as well.
That's what I was going to ask you, because I think that, it kind of shows a little bit of bucking the whole trend, right? Like, the most moderate person did not win the primary in a state that typically goes red, right? It was people not drawing those lines in that kind of way you would imagine.
Yeah.
It's the big thing is, and the reason why I always say, when you think of like, this is where we could win, or this is where whatever, I always say that the Midwest is somewhere that I could really see some leftists getting into office, like local office, especially in small towns where people don't run or don't care to run, or, like that you're ingrained in. Like, so I live in Indiana.
Agrarian politics is such an open door, and also the military. It's the perfect intersection for true leftist policy to be used to, really reach voters who everybody on MSNBC and CNN will tell you is unreachable, and that it's a, fool's errand to try. Right. Yeah. And we've been talking a lot about on this show, and, we've been doing book clubs, and one of the ones we'll be doing coming up is on Thomas Frank's books, and specifically What's the Matter with Kansas and his new book, The People Know, and the history of that populism actually has amongst farmers, because they know exactly what it's like to go up against big business and monopoly, because they're constantly fighting big agriculture.
Yes.
And guess what? They're also always sending their kids to war. So it's a perfect new ground to forge, because the Democrats have dropped the ball. They're the party of big business, big agriculture, and war. So I think you're 100% right that in a state like Kansas or Indiana, that's 100% a sale.